Clerk, please call the roll.
John Donovan. Here. Michael Hurley. Here. Jay Lipp. Gaylord Meyer. Eric Sunman. Here. Pete Ambrose. Here. Catherine Burstein. Nathaniel Schindler. Jeff Steele. Here. Keith Varian. Here. Ed Bateson. Here. Sam Cargill. Here. Hank Ferentz. Here. Dave McKenzie. Here. Mary McCullough. Here. Heather Dean. Present. Joe DiMartino. Here. Bill Gerber. Here. Joe Palmer. Here. Cindy Waldron. Here. Josh Garskoff. Here. Lauren O'Brien. Here. Andrew Semmel. Ruth Smay. Here. Carol Way. Here. Julie Gottlieb. Alan Marks. Here. Joe Siebert. Here. Jay Wolk. Here. Liz Esma. Here. Jen Hochberg. Here. Kevin Hopkins. Eric Newman. Here. Phil Pierce. Here. Hal Schwartz. Here. Kathy Braun. Alex Durrell. Jason Lee. Here. Tom McCarthy. Here. Jeff Melarano. Here. Pamela Iacono.
Here.
Ellen Jacob. Here. Lori McCardle. Here. Carol Pontrelli. Here. Chris Timniak. Here. Brian Caffarelli. Brian Farnan. Ray Newberger. Bill Perugini. Here. Bruce Ryan.
Here.
Will you all please rise? Representative Steele will lead us in the pledge. Right, Representative Steele? You're going to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. You may be seated. I just wanted to take one moment of my time to express my gratitude for all of the kind words that I got last week. As many of you know, it was a very difficult week for myself and many people close to me. Jim Walsh, who's also a member of the Board of Finance, lost his uncle. My sister-in-law's father lost his battle with cancer, and my grandmother passed away, all within 1 week. And so many of you have reached out to me and expressed so many words of kindness, and I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart and from those who are close to me, thank you very much. Now, to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 23rd, 2015. May I have a motion to approve? Moved by Representative Dean, seconded by Representative Hochberg. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, the minutes pass unanimously. Item number 3. To consider and act upon the following appointment to the Employees Retirement Board as recommended by the First Selectman. Catherine F. Fagan, Republican, 450 Cornell Road, term November 2013 to 2018. Moved by Representative Schwartz, seconded by Representative Ryan. Is Mrs. Fagan here this evening? Would you please come to the microphone? You can stand right by that stand. And I understand you weren't able to attend our committee meetings. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a very brief introduction and tell us why you're interested in this position.
Sure. Sorry, that's quite loud. I'm Catherine Fagan. I worked as a chief financial officer most of my career. Recently, probably a year and a half ago, I resigned from my position, and now I feel like I have time and I could use my expertise to help in the town that I live in. So I thought that this position would be something of interest to me, and hopefully I could help out the community.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Fagan? Representative Jacobs. Jacob. Sorry.
Hello, Mrs. Fagan. Ellen Jacob, District 9. I was impressed because I think it's the first time I've seen this from a candidate, that you actually asked some questions, and they were very good questions. It's an important position that you're a candidate for. I am, and for everybody, it's, I guess, on the second or third page here. I'm wondering, did you get any answers?
I got answers to the first question on insurance, and I got a copy of the insurance policy to review. The other questions I have not gotten answers yet. I did talk to Brian Vahey, and we're going to go through the questions in detail, but I have not gotten answers yet.
So I just have one other brief question, which is, will you be pursuing answers to your questions once you're in there?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's important that, it's a position that I can, excel at, and I want to make sure the processes are in place that I can follow what's expected of me and achieve that goal. So when I looked through the investment policy and guideline memo that I found online, there were certain things that were required in this position, and so I wanted to make sure, what process was in place to achieve it. For example, one of the requirements was to make sure that there's E&O insurance with the consultant network or the advisors, and how does the town go about getting those policies and making sure they're up to date, and so we can do our job on the board.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? Representative McCarthy.
Tom McCarthy, District 8.
I know it is loud, right?
I'll hold this at arm's length. I like your resume, but one thing I notice is more to the business control end of the spectrum. Not that that's a bad thing, especially in times of, financial instability. But what are your thoughts in terms of, you see yourself, to what extent, growing the portfolio? If you understand what I mean, more like in the investment end, or do you see yourself as being more conservative in terms of investment, not taking undue risk?
Okay. You're totally correct about my resume. I wasn't the person that would invest the money in the portfolio. I was the person who would oversee all the different investment structures that we had. And I was also on the executive committee to decide, should we take more risk? Should we put more leverage into the portfolio? Should we go into equity securities? But I wasn't the one saying, this is the particular equity security we should buy. It was more a broad-based decision of where the market is and what we felt comfortable doing. With something like a retirement pension type plan, it's concerning to go too far on the spectrum of risk. So, I don't think that would be something that I would necessarily recommend. For other structures, we definitely took a lot of risk, and it was more hedge fund-like, but there were other structures that were very conservative. So I think it's the risk appetite and what the expected returns are. So if the actuary has a set target, or that's something we're trying to achieve, that's where I think you have to focus. But I think on something like this, and this holds true on the 401k, that was a fiduciary, you have to really be careful and make sure that the investment parameters are meeting the goals, and that's the end goal, not to have these outsized returns in the portfolio.
At times, risk averse is good.
No, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Any other members of the body have any questions? Seeing none, is there any comment from the public? Back to the body, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item is to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond appropriation entitled "A Resolution Appropriating $775,000 for the cost of certain non-recurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation be and hereby is approved." Moved by Representative Bateson, seconded by Representative Marks. Is there discussion on this item? Excellent. Is there any comment from the public? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. The item passes unanimously. Item number 5. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond appropriation entitled "A Resolution Appropriating $1,289,000 for the costs of certain non-recurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation be and hereby is approved." Moved by Representative Dean, seconded by Representative Bateson. Is there any discussion on this item? Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 3. Is this the one with the trucks, DPW? Okay, quick comment through you to Joe Michelangelo. I appreciate the fact, I know this was a concern with us when we bonded those heavy vehicles last year. I see the plan that we are going to do 2 vehicles in the capital non-recurring, and I see 2 vehicles in the operating budget for a total of around $800,000. I like the way this is being handled. I also ask that you guys stick to the plan. I think we were informed of the plan in caucus whereby you are going to ramp up and move out of capital non-recurring. So next year I expect to see 1 heavy vehicle in capital non-recurring and your other 3 in the operating budget. And then in the next year we will see the 4 vehicles, or roughly $600,000, $800,000 in the operating budget. I'm not happy that we're bonding the trucks, but I see a plan and we're moving away from it. So based on that, I'm happy that we're doing it, and as long as you stick to the plan, we'll stick to the plan. So thank you.
Are there any other members who wish to speak to this item? Representative Jacob.
District 9. I do have a quick question for anyone who can answer it on the school infrastructure or the security infrastructure upgrade. Is anybody here?
Dr. Title, would you be able to assist Representative Jacob with her question?
And I just want to say I'm in favor of it. I will vote for it. I'm not sure how much you can answer, but I just had one leftover question about, it seems to me, because these are all such specialties, these items that are listed, that you will have to rely heavily on consultants who are experts in each of these areas. Are you planning, or do you have some in mind at this point? And is it one firm, or is it more than one firm?
For some of the projects, they are specialty projects, and we will need to hire some consultants to lay them out so they can be prepared for bid. But it would probably be multiple consultants. I don't think there's a company that does all of these things. So these areas are very specialized. So when we're talking about cameras, there are people that really specialize in cameras, and they may not be specialists and may not want to be used for anything else. We haven't gotten to the part of picking them. We're hoping the money gets approved. Then we'll move on to that.
Okay, and is there an overview or a chief consultant who is the overview person who puts all the pieces together?
The chief consultants that we use, and we bounce everything off, is the police department. We have tremendous expertise in this town on the police side, and before we move ahead with any project, we want to make sure the police have tested it and verified it and validated it against national standards and so forth. So we've always relied very heavily on the police department for the planning of this project. They've been very good about helping us prioritize what is the best bang for the buck, and we'll continue to work closely with the police department as sort of our chief consultants on all of this.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Are there any other further questions from the body? Seeing none, is there any comment from the public? All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The item passes unanimously. Item number 6, to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Finance. Resolved that the bond appropriation entitled a resolution appropriating $4,226,342 for the cost of certain non-reoccurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation be and hereby is approved. Moved by Representative Hochberg, seconded by Representative Ambrose. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, is there any comment from the public? All in favor of this item, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The item passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by Edward Bateson, District 3, and Michael Hurley, District 1. May I have a motion for discussion purposes only? Representative Bateson, seconded by Representative Dean. Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I received a call from the First Selectman late this afternoon. I think I should turn the microphone over to him. He has some information that has great bearing on this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Bateson. I got a call earlier today, and the owner's rep from the building committee for Osborne Hill School was reconciling the financial reports with our finance department. And in going through there, they found one invoice that had been encumbered, meaning reserved to be spent. And in another line found that it had actually been paid. What that does is we no longer have to reserve the money for the encumbered invoice, and we can free that up, and that freed up $250,000 for this project. So the building committee will be proceeding. They won't need to come back to this body for any additional funding in order to complete that corridor. Now, the building committee gave a presentation before the Board of Selectmen this past week and stepped through what their timing and what their project was. They are currently working with an architect to write the spec for the corridor. They actually had a kind of a piece of material they're going to use on the corridor at our Board of Selectmen meeting, and if you get a chance to review those tapes, you may see it there. They will then go out to bid to have a firm price on that. All right. Then they would have brought that back through the boards to be reviewed, but in this case, since they'll have the money in the budget, they can actually then proceed through with completing the corridor as part of the project.
Representative Bateson, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. First Selectman. I am so happy. As I expressed to Mike so eloquently on the phone when he called me,
He said it just that way. I'm so happy.
And we'll talk about it's always the good news when you find money like this. Of course, tomorrow morning when I wake up and the hangover goes away, you'll realize, well, how did this happen? We'll talk about that later. As for tonight, we're going to take the good information and have some drinks with it. What I want to follow up on is the enclosed walkway. This money, I don't see this resolution as being germane or we need it now, because I agree with you that the building committee now has the funds, because any dollar value we're looking at was going to be anywhere, I thought, or this body thought, was $120,000 to $150,000. We see that in the budget. I did have a chance to watch the Board of Selectmen meeting where the building committee came forth. The only thing that causes me concern there is there's a timeline on this building committee that I want to see met. That I think it was the goal of the building committee to be out of that facility by August 25th or late summer, so that in September 2015 the kids could go in. I really would like to see us stick by that deadline with the enclosed walkway. Seeing as how, I think there was 8 weeks I had heard at the building committee level to get this project up and going, I would like to see us do all due haste on this and just get it done. I don't see this as needing to go back for an appropriation to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, or the RTM. I think this is already in the bond resolution that we passed in 2013, so my recommendation and attitude towards the building committee is don't bother coming back and asking for money. Get it done. We want it done by September 2015. This community has endured enough through the construction they're going through now. I really don't want to see it go into September. So with the building committee, just get it done, and I think our discussion on the phone matched that today. Having said all that, and having heard this information, Representative Hurley and myself would like to withdraw the resolution that's before us because, quite frankly, we feel they have the money now.
Just to kind of confirm what Representative Bateson was concerned about, the Building Committee is definitely committed to getting this done as soon as possible. By having this additional funds in the budget, that basically saves 6 to 8 weeks potentially in approval time, as you all know, getting through the boards and having dates line up. So this gives them a much greater chance and higher probability of hitting those dates.
Thank you. That's some much-needed good news. Representative Schwartz.
Al Schwartz, District 7. Through you, Madam Moderator, to the First Selectman, it is your understanding now that since we don't have to go back to Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the and the RTM again for the additional funding, so the presentation that was made to the Board of Selectmen included that time frame for the approvals of additional funds, which is why it was an 8 to 12-week process. So now we can understand that that process is now going to be shortened, so now the Building Committee also understands that, to your best of your knowledge, that the Building Committee understands that their timeline is now shortened and that they could possibly hit the target date that they had originally had. And if at all possible, through you to the Building Committee, or however we can get that information, if that information can come back to this body, I'd like to hear from the Building Committee, since this started back in 2013. I'd like to know what their plan is and what their program's going to be and when they foresee that this will be done, since it could have been done originally, and now that they don't need the initial funds. I think this body deserves that. So if at all possible, if that information could be sent to the moderator and back to the body, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I will speak to the Building Committee, happy to get that back. I know they are currently working on the specs. They hope to get that out to bid in early April, back by the end of April, and that would have meant we would have started the approval process at that point, so we save that whole piece after that. So I'm assuming as soon as appropriate, they'll be kind of in the ground and working on construction. They have to coordinate that with the rest of the project, so I will get that information and get that back to the body.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, if you could get us the written documents as soon as they're available, and then I can ask the Building Committee, if this body so chooses, to come back after the bids are in, just to give us an update on how things are going. And that way we'll all be clear on where they are with the process. So hopefully that'll keep us all informed. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak about this? All right. Item number 8 is to consider and act upon any other matters presented to the said meeting in which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the representative town meeting. Seeing none, Representative Walk did ask for a brief moment of personal privilege. If you could just turn your attention to Jay for one moment.
I promise this won't be long. Jay Walk, District 6. For those of you who don't know, there's a boy by the name of Max Maisel who was missing in my neighborhood. Just briefly, the search for him has ceased. The police department up in Rochester has stopped the search. He's been missing for over a month, well over a month. The Maisel family is having a memorial this Friday at 11 o'clock at the B'nai Israel Temple on Park Avenue in Bridgeport, and you're all welcome to come. Thank you.
And just as a matter of housekeeping, in the beginning of April, we start our budget review process. If you could please, as members, let your committee chairman know if there are specific department heads you would like to hear from. Please notify your committee chairman by April 3rd. I'd hate to drag out department heads that we do not need to hear from, so please let your intentions known through your committee chairman. Thank you very much. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:33 p.m. Representative Amber, second by Representative Schwartz.